Myself, Dr. Hanuman Prasad. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Chemistry at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, IARE, which is located at Dundigal. Now, the topic I am going to discuss is from Module 4, Gender and Culture. And the name of the topic is Gender and Popular Literature. The contents that I am going to discuss as a part of this topic are Introduction, Gender Roles and Stereotypes, Historical Context of Gender Roles in Literature, Evolution of Gender Representation in Contemporary Works, Gender Roles and Stereotypes in Contemporary Literature. So, in that examination of various genres. Next, representation of traditional gender roles and stereotypes. And finally, references. Let's look at each and every content in detail. First of all, introduction. So, the objectives of this course means gender and popular literature include to introduce the theories of gender that are important for reading literature. And the second objective is to introduce the poems, short stories and novels specifically written by writers who wish to open out the canon to new expressions of sexuality. And the third objective is to introduce the writers that you may not have read, whose work attempts to describe a locus or place for the irrepressible struggle between constructions of sexuality and gender. So there are three main objectives of this gender and popular literature course. Content. Those are to introduce the theories of gender that are important for reading literature, and to introduce the poems, short stories and novels specifically written by writers who wish to open out the canon to new expressions of sexuality. And to introduce the writers that you may not have read, whose work attempts to describe a locus or place for the irrepressible struggle between constructions of sexuality and gender. These are the main objectives. Okay. Now let's look at the next content. Gender roles and stereotypes. So this is very prominent content. So one should understand in detail. Gender roles refer to the societal expectations and norms assigned to individuals based on their gender. So what does gender roles or what do gender roles refer? Gender roles refer to the societal expectations and norms assigned to individuals based on their gender. Okay? These roles dictate the behaviors, responsibilities and activities deemed appropriate for males and females within a given culture or society. Okay? So what these gender roles dictate? They dictate the behaviors, responsibilities and activities deemed appropriate for males and females within a given culture or given society. And now coming to gender stereotypes. What do gender stereotypes refer? Gender stereotypes refer to the common beliefs or assumptions about the characteristics, behaviors and roles associated with each gender. Okay? And these stereotypes can be limiting and often perpetuate societal inequalities by reinforcing traditional gender norms. Okay? So, gender stereotypes refer to common beliefs or assumptions about the characteristics, behaviors and roles associated with each gender. And these stereotypes can be limiting can be limiting and often perpetuate societal inequalities by reinforcing traditional gender norms. So it means that one should not always stick to traditional gender norms. You should try something new. So such that you should prove that gender equality exists. Then only you can achieve gender sensitization to 100% extent. Okay? One should have the capability to say that gender is equal. All genders are equal. Means whatever the task or function that male can effectively perform, the same can be performed by the females as well. Then we can say that gender equality has been arrived and gender sensitization will be achieved. Okay? So that is how gender roles and stereotypes can be introduced. In continuation, gender roles and stereotypes exist in various forms and are prevalent in literature, means these are common in literature. For example, women are often portrayed as nurturing, emotional and dependent, while men are depicted as strong, rational and dominant. Okay, this is the perception of the society. Women are portrayed as nurturing, means taking care, emotional means feeling a little bit sensitive, and dependent, depend on other, vulnerability. Okay, while men are depicted as are described as strong, rational and dominant. Okay, these stereotypes can shape readers' perceptions and expectations of gender behavior, influencing their understanding of gender dynamics within society. Okay, these stereotypes can shape readers' perceptions and expectations of gender behavior, which influence their understanding of gender dynamics within the society. Okay, and it is crucial to analyze these representations in contemporary literature to understand the impact they have on shaping or challenging existing gender norms. Okay, so it is very crucial to analyze all these kinds of gender stereotypes and how the impact of literature on the society and on shaping and challenging the existing gender norms. Okay, it is very crucial to analyze all these kinds of traditional stereotypes and strange stereotypes. Strange means to show gender is equal and to achieve gender sensitization. Okay, and let's look at the next content: historical context of gender roles in literature. Gender roles are deeply ingrained in literature throughout history. In many classic works, such as Shakespeare's plays or Austen's novels, gender roles were often rigidly defined, reflecting the prevalent social and cultural expectations of the time. Women were typically portrayed as submissive and confined to domestic spaces, while men were portrayed as the providers and decision makers. Okay, so how women are portrayed? They are portrayed as submissive. Submissive means simply obeying the authority orders without using their own sense. And they are always confined to domestic spaces, means they are limited to home. Society perception. And while men are portrayed as the providers of food and safety and decision makers, they only make the decisions, they only implement the decisions, like that. But to achieve gender sensitization, it should be minimized. It means both should be equally playing the role in the society. Then only we can avoid all these kinds of harassment kind of problems, and any kind of gender related issues can be avoided. Okay. For instance, in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, Juliet is depicted as a young woman who defies her family's expectations. Who defies means who denies. Okay, family's expectations and falls in love with Romeo, challenging the traditional role of women as passive and obedient. Generally, traditionally, women are, according to society's perception, women are treated as passive and obedient. Okay, but here in the Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, so Juliet is the woman, young woman, who defies the family's expectations, who denies family's expectations, and falls in love with her beloved one, Romeo. So means she challenges the traditional role of woman in the society. Means she wants to prove that both gender have the right to take their own decisions on their own maturity. Okay, so that means in her mind gender sensitization has been achieved. So everyone should think in the same way. So all gender has the right to take the decision, but with matured way, not in an inappropriate way. Okay, that is very crucial to understand. Okay, not like taking any kind of decision, not like that. In a matured way, it should not harm anyone. It should be useful to others. It should be useful to yourself and all. Okay, I hope you are understanding. Yes. Now let's look at the continuation. However, her tragic fate, her means Juliet's, ultimately reinforces, means strengthens societal norms by reinforcing the consequences of defying gender roles. But finally, what happened? There will be problems, and finally, what will be the conclusion? So one should obey the traditional gender norms or traditional role of women in the society. But unfortunately, it was failed. But if one is strong enough and if one's fate is good, so if your decision is good, if you are taken with matureness and with thinking all the possibilities, then it will never fail. It may fail temporarily, but on the permanent scale, it will be ultimate. Means it will be definitely get succeeded. Okay. Over time, literature has gradually responded to societal changes, reflecting shifting gender dynamics. What does it reflect? It reflects that shifting in gender dynamics. In the late 19th century and early 20th century, feminist movements such as the suffrage, means right to vote in political elections. So suffrage movement, which describes the right to vote in political elections, which influenced literature and gave rise to female characters who challenged traditional gender roles. So it should be like this. Whatever decision you have taken, that should be matured and that should be fruitful towards society. Okay. For example, in Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, the protagonist Clarissa Dalloway rebels against societal expectations and explores her own desires and identity. Okay. So if you see Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, the protagonist Clarissa Dalloway rebels against societal expectations and she explores her own desires and identity with proper maturity, not just like that. Okay. And the next content is evolution of gender representation in contemporary works. Contemporary literature presents an opportunity to examine the evolving representation of gender roles and stereotypes. Okay. Today, authors have more freedom to challenge or subvert traditional gender norms. So that is the main thing going on in the society now. To challenge or to subvert the traditional gender norms and present a more nuanced understanding of gender, means more matured way of gender, means gender equality must be arrived and gender sensitization must be achieved through this. So that is the main aim of these authors, novelists and all. Okay. For instance, in Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Americana, the protagonist Ifemelu critiques and dismantles gender stereotypes as she navigates her identity as a Nigerian woman living in America. Okay, what she did? She is a protagonist. What is the name? Ifemelu critiques and dismantles gender stereotypes. Means it is not like whatever is written in the book. It should be in a matured way. It should be in a proper way. Whatever you feel it is good, you can do it. You have the freedom to do it. That is what is the gender equality, and so gender sensitization can be achieved. Okay. She navigates her identity as a Nigerian woman even though she is living in America. Okay. So that is against the traditional gender norms. And Adichie's novel explores the complexities of race, class, and gender, highlighting the intersections of identity and challenging simplistic notions of gender roles. Okay? She has challenged the simplistic notions of gender roles. It should be like this, it should be like that, not like that. So it should be in a matured way, it should be fruitful, and it should be useful to society, and it should not harm others. And you should think in such a way, and you can perform whatever you think in a user friendly or eco friendly or environmental friendly way. Okay. And the next continuation of this concept, similarly in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, Hermione Granger emerges as a strong and intelligent female character who defies traditional expectations of female characters in fantasy literature. So there is one more example. In J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, the name of the woman is Hermione Granger, who emerges as a strong and intelligent female character who defies traditional expectations of female characters in fantasy literature. Her portrayal challenges the notion that heroism and intelligence are solely male traits, breaking gender stereotypes within the genre. Furthermore, contemporary literature also showcases the diversity of gender identities and expressions. For example, authors such as Maula et al. Maula et al. Means Maula Group, have explored themes of intersectional feminism, queer experiences, and non-binary identities, offering alternative perspectives that further challenge binary notions of gender. Means you should always challenge the traditional gender norms. You should do something successive, something in a successful way against the traditional gender norms. Okay? So that is the actual theme of this popular literature regarding the gender. Okay? And let's look at the continuation. Analyzing these contemporary works allows us to observe how gender representations have evolved and broadened in recent years, providing more inclusive and diverse narratives that reflect the complexity of real life experiences. Real life experiences who are challenging the traditional gender norms. One should challenge the traditional gender norms in a matured way, not like an immature way. Okay, that is very, very crucial to understand. By examining contemporary literature, we can gain insights into how authors are breaking away from traditional gender roles and stereotypes, offering new possibilities for readers to question and challenge societal expectations, means to challenge traditional gender norms. Traditional gender norms. So these are only the societal expectations. One should challenge in a matured way, in a proper way. Okay. It is essential that further research delves into specific texts and authors to gain deeper insights into the ways in which contemporary literature is shaping and challenging the traditional gender roles and traditional gender stereotypes. Okay, you understand? It is essential for everyone, not only for the authors, but also for the readers to understand what are the ways to maturely achieve these kind of challenges against traditional gender norms or traditional societal expectations. Okay, to fruitfully achieve gender sensitization. And the next content is gender roles and stereotypes in contemporary literature. In examining various genres of contemporary literature, it is evident that gender roles and stereotypes are prevalent, means they exist, they are common across all forms of literary expression. Novels such as The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and Beloved by Toni Morrison depict female protagonists who navigate oppressive societal expectations and challenge traditional gender roles. There are many examples. Okay? So, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and Beloved by Toni Morrison. In all these novels, the female character challenges the traditional gender norms. Similarly, short stories like The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman and Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway provide nuanced insights into the constraints imposed on women by patriarchal norms. Means this is also to challenge the traditional gender norms. But here short stories and previously novels. Moreover, poetry collections such as Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur and Citizen, an American Lyric by Claudia Rankine explore issues of gender inequality and the construction of stereotypes within the society. So there are some poetry collections, Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur and Citizen, an American Lyric by Claudia Rankine. They also explore the issues of gender inequality and they also address some challenges against traditional gender norms. Okay? And let's continue this. The representation of traditional gender roles and stereotypes is a pervasive theme, means it is a common theme in contemporary literature. The analysis of various works reveals that men are often depicted as dominant, assertive, and rational, while women are portrayed as submissive, nurturing, and emotional. So many works reveal the same thing. The general things that are portrayed to men and women. Men are depicted as dominant, assertive, and rational, while women are portrayed or depicted as submissive, nurturing, and emotional. Okay. For example, in Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen portrays the female characters as seeking marriage and financial security, conforming to the traditional societal expectations of women during the time period. Means they are following the traditional gender norms. Similarly, in The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood portrays a dystopian society where women are reduced to their reproductive capabilities, reinforcing the stereotype that women's primary purpose is childbearing and nurturing. Means it is also following the traditional gender norms.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.